Hello and welcome to this section of our Masterclass Day. So, Deb, welcome, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Ron. I'm so happy to be here today. I'm going to share my slides with everybody. And today my discussion is about business intelligence driven planning. And today's discussion is going to be a very practical discussion because I want to make sure that our audience has an opportunity to learn how to implement some of these things I'll be speaking about. And the business intelligence process is a rather lengthy process. So it begins, actually, the beginning of the process is when departments of an organization get together and they start thinking about the types of data or information that they need in order to make effective business decisions. And so that kind of starts, that the whole process. And then through that process, you're putting your planning team together. Every department is writing their business requirements, what types of data is important for them, for their functional area of the business to know, to gather, to collect, to analyze. And so there's a lot of that upfront work that needs to happen. And then once that information is identified, gathered, collected, and is living in a data repository, a central repository somewhere, then that data needs to be analyzed in order to determine what that data is telling them, what insights are critically important in order to affect that decision-making process. So today's discussion really is picking up at that data analysis part of the process, because that's kind of where the rubber hits the road. And so I'm going to share with you some tools that you can implement so that you can quickly analyze that data, so that you can extract the insights from those data sets that are most meaningful to you, and then help and have those insights be integrated into your planning process, into the actual creation of your business plan. And so one thing I do want to share with you before we get started, actually, is that for those of you that were part of the DC APAX conference, our global conference, for the last 4 days, we had over 80 speakers come and speak on business health and wellness topics. And they each had about 25 minutes to talk about their topic. And so, we're very grateful that they came and joined us to share their expertise, but they were only able to share 25 minutes of their expertise. So to me, the conferences really are an opportunity to kind of just, scratch the surface of a topic. And 25 minutes isn't really it's not a great amount of time. You can't really learn how to implement or how to execute what you're hearing them speak on. So I wanted to differentiate between the different parts of what we're talking about here as far as education and training, is that the conferences is a great platform for education to learn about these concepts, to determine, maybe some very high level things you need to know. But the master classes, which is what we're doing today. Today is our launch of our master classes, is transitions from the general education to the how to implement, how to execute. So the master classes are a series of 2-hour classes. And then we also have online training courses that are 4 hours. And those typically are called our fundamentals courses. So those go even deeper on a topic. And then we also have courses that are more intermediate and more advanced. So there are options available to people wherever they are on their interest in that area. They can come and attend the conference and get just that 25 minutes of a general understanding. But then they can come into the master classes. We had Arthur this morning who spoke about AI tools, spent 2 hours teaching about AI tools. Ron Gayoso teaching about scenario planning and storytelling. And then now we just had Martin Schworn talk about weak signals and about generative AI as an example. And here I am talking about business intelligence. So all of us as business professionals, wherever we are on in our career, if we're a business leader, a business owner, every one of us needs to be armed with information so that we can make those effective decisions. And so I'm going to start the discussion talking specifically about the data analysis process. and move you through that process to the actual creation of your strategic plan. So that is the how you can literally take insights out of data, turn that into from data into intelligence, and build your plan complete with your strategic objectives, your strategic initiatives, and walks that through the operating budget creation, so that you ultimately leave this session with an understanding of how to actually build your strategic plan for your business. So that's just kind of laying some ground rules here for today's session. And I also want to share with you a little story about the criticality of collecting data, analyzing data, and the insights that you can get from data. So let me walk you through the Diet Pepsi story. So you may look at this and go, what in the world does Diet Pepsi have to do with business intelligence? So I want to share a story with you. This is a personal story, and it goes back several years. And one day I was driving home from work, and I pulled into my driveway and opened up the garage door. And before I pulled my car into the garage, I noticed that on my front stoop was a 12-pack sleeve of Diet Pepsi. And I remember thinking, what is this doing here? We were not Diet Pepsi drinkers. We weren't in my household. But yet here was this case of Diet Pepsi, and I thought, well, that's very odd. This was before the days of Amazon delivery and people ordering their groceries, long before the pandemic, when it became normal to order and have at-home delivery of products. So this goes back a while, but it really speaks to the importance of collecting data and analyzing data. And so I put the case of Diet Pepsi on the shelf in the garage, went in the house, and I didn't really think about it after that. But then about a couple of weeks later, I'm sitting in my office at work. And at the time, my job was head of database marketing for R.R. Donnelley. And R.R. Donnelley is a commercial printing company and digital marketing company. It's a Fortune ranked business, and I was the head of digital marketing for the company. And my job was to gather and collect information that then our clients would then purchase to help them make informed business decisions. And so R.R. Donnelley at the time had something called the National Consumer Database. And I don't know if you have ever heard about the NCDB, but this was a database that had information about every household in America. And if you think, and you may have thought that, somewhere out there, somewhere is, a big corporation who knows a lot about me. And you're absolutely right. And it was my job to collect data about consumers. And so the National Consumer Database was actually a repository of all this demographic information about almost every household in America. So we knew about where people lived. We had their names. We had their street addresses. We knew what census tract they lived in. We knew what the estimated household income was of those individuals. We knew if there was a presence of a child in their household, and on and on and on. So it was just this repository of information that marketers, companies would purchase these lists. They would segment the list, pick out the variables that were most important to them, and purchase those lists for direct marketing activities. And so my job was to manage this line of Donnelley's business. But then many of our corporate clients were very large consumer packaged goods companies. And you know the names. These are household names. And so they came to R.R. Donnelley, to me and my team, and they said, we want to know more about these consumers. It's great to know where people live and their address and their estimated household income, if there's a child in the household. But we want to know what their preferences are when it comes to their brand choices. What products are they purchasing? What are they consuming within their household across many different consumer product group categories? So we came up with a strategy of how to gather this information, the behavioral information, the psychographic information, the brand purchase information from consumers. And the way that we did that was through the development of surveys. And these were paper surveys. So as I said, this is, back several years. And so my team would work very, very closely with our CPG, our corporate clients, to determine what data they needed to know about in order to target effectively for their lines of products. And we created these paper surveys that had many, many different types of questions on these surveys. So we would literally develop the surveys. We would work with our clients and get their buy-in on is this exactly the type of information that you need? Again, business requirements, data requirements. Is this what you're looking for to help you be able to target effectively? Yes. So we would take those paper surveys, millions and millions and millions of these surveys, and we would bind them into the magazines that R.R. Donnelley printed, because R.R. Donnelley is a commercial printer, printed McCall's Magazine, Redbook Magazine, Better Homes and Gardens, Sports Illustrated, and on and on and on. So we had a channel available to us to distribute the paper surveys, and we bound them in to all those magazines, which would then go out into the world. Then people would fill out the surveys and we would incent them. Our clients would provide coupons and things for them to incentivize them to actually complete the survey, and at the time, mail them in. So another part of my responsibility was to distribute all the surveys, work with production to bind them all in, the distribution of all the magazines throughout the world, Donnelley Global Company, and then all the data came in that needed to be gathered, collected, analyzed, and come to life in a repository somewhere, in a central database. So I was in the business of data acquisition, data collection, data analysis, data segmentation, targeting. And so I'm sitting in my work one day in my office a couple of weeks later, after this Diet Pepsi arrived on my doorstep, and all of a sudden I had an epiphany. And that epiphany was I was personally responsible for that Diet Pepsi sleeve on my doorstep. Why? Because I personally filled out one of my own surveys. And on that survey, I said that within my household, we used Coca-Cola products. And so what happened is that Pepsi-Cola bought the list, the competitive product purchasers, which included Coca-Cola products, and I was on that list. So they had my name. They had my mailing address. They knew not only about where I lived and what census tract I was in and the estimated household income, and there was a presence of a child in the house. They now knew that I was a Coca-Cola product purchaser. And then it wasn't just about the Coke. It was about what toothpaste we used in my house. Were we smokers or non-smokers, and on and on and on, because these surveys asked all these questions of consumers. So I was actually responsible for that sleeve of Diet Pepsi arriving on my doorstep. So I just wanted to share that as an example of the power of understanding the requirements you have, your business requirements for data. What types of data do you need to collect so that you can, again, gather the insights, make informed business decisions, and plan appropriately. But here's a classic example of how Pepsi-Cola did that. They put together their requirements. They knew one of the top priorities was to identify the competitive product purchasers to Pepsi-Cola products, and I was on that list. So you can see the power of gathering and analyzing information. So I just wanted to use that as a personal example. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit more specifically about how that works in the next couple of hours. So let's shift a little here and talk about why an information-driven business planning process is critical for your success. Okay. The world we're living in, our business climates are incredibly, incredibly complex. And what's happening now is that the responsibility of collecting data everybody thought, okay, well, marketing's responsible. We talked about this a minute ago. It's actually one of the questions I think asked of Martin, kind of who owns this process, the collection of data, the analyzing of data. Is it marketing? Is it IT? Who owns that? And so I guess my answer to that question would be that it's everybody's responsibility in the organization. Everybody has different requirements when it comes to their data needs. And so I just want to make this point here that the businesses we work in are very complex. It's not just one department's responsibility, it's everybody's responsibility. And so what's happening now is that each organizational department is being asked to support the company by delivering deeper insight and greater value more effectively than they ever have before. So today's companies have to be more efficient. They have to more effectively identify and respond to risk and opportunity. They have to deliver more robust and effective analysis of key issues, and they have to be able to provide more actionable insights to drive positive change. And so when saying all that, it's really, really important because for many of us who work within the small to mid-sized business space, there aren't a lot of big operating budgets. This isn't the R.R. Donnellys of the world, where someone like myself has access to very large operating budgets. Many of us and many of our attendees at our conferences, and many of those that are attending today, I have very lean operating budgets. So it's critically important to be able to get the information that you need to make effective business decisions and make those decisions quickly so that you can, number one, identify opportunities to drive incremental revenue growth, while you're simultaneously identifying potential risk, because you need to be able to capitalize on the opportunities for revenue while you're simultaneously mitigating risk. So you've always got that mindset of, where can I generate incremental revenue, where I'm simultaneously looking for ways to take costs out of my operations, because that's the only way you're going to drive profitability. So it's everybody's responsibility in the organization to be part of this data collection and analysis process. So ask yourself this question. Where are you right now when it comes to the revenue of your business? Are you doing well? Is your revenue trending positive? Are you plateauing? Are you seeing a decline in revenue? Are you in an organization, maybe very small organization, that you don't have a formal business planning process? And I get that. A lot of the people that are attending today are solopreneurs, but even solopreneurs need a business plan, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Do you need to know more about your customers? And when was the last time you did a customer profile analysis? Do you even know who your customers are? Because that's really important too. So you need to know more about your customers. Maybe you're investing a lot in your digital marketing efforts or your marketing efforts in general, but you're really not sure how effective they are, how they're working for you. Are they creating a positive return? And so we need to talk about that as well. And if you're lacking the top line revenue growth, lacking profitability, then this is a time for you to stop and take a moment and pay attention here to what I'm going to teach about today, because we can turn that around and we can do it in a way that's very cost effective. And I know that is a real consideration and a real hardship for small businesses who just don't have a lot of money to make these investments in research and analysis. But you can do this, and I'm going to tell you how. Another question to ask yourself is, when was the last time that you connected with your customers and actually went through the process of gathering customer feedback about the quality of your products and your services, about your service levels, and on and on and on? So if you haven't taken a moment to connect with your customers, a lot has changed in the last 3 years with the pandemic. So, and it's interesting in the work that I do with small to mid-sized businesses, Many of them will say, I don't need to do that, Deb. I know my customers. I know what the competition is doing. I'm good, thanks. And I would say to you, maybe not so much. So maybe this is a good time again to take a pause and take a sense of where you are with your customers, with your customer satisfaction. Look at your retention numbers, and think about what's happening on the competitive landscape. What's happened to some of your competitors? Are there new ones that are on the horizon? Are some of your competitors gone out of business? What's the status of your competitors? So we're going to talk about how you do that. So one of the things that I found in all my work in gathering and collecting and analyzing data and information was a disconnect between the understanding your business requirements, what types of data you needed to know so that you could make good decisions, and actually going through that collection and the data cleaning process, the data repository where all this information resides, and so there's all the data sets that come from that, lots and lots and lots of data, which is a good thing at face value. But you have to be able to pull out of all these disparate data sets those pieces of information that are critical so that you can develop the right value for your customers, the right products, the right services. And there was a disconnect between the planning process and the actual formulation of the business strategy. So when I'm started doing this work for myself and my clients, when I started my own company, I thought there has to be a better way to be able to sift through all this data. And so from organizations that may not have really had a discipline of gathering and analyzing information, it could be an overwhelming process. And so we start the process with saying, with our small business clients, gather what you currently have in your organization. Take a look at all the internal data sets that you currently have. So go to accounting. Have accounting give you reports about, or run reports about your current customers and their profitability to you. What types of products and services are they buying? Are those customers profitable? And start asking these questions with what you've currently got available in your computer, on your desk, in a file cabinet. For a very small business, that's a great place to start. Start with what you currently have. And what's at your fingertips. And then you'll start to get a sense of what you have and maybe where the gaps are, what you don't know that you think might be really, really important. And so we needed to find a way and develop a process to help our clients be able to pull out those insights. And so it's a proprietary process that SMB put together that allows you to do that. And we call this a research bridge. And so it is an opportunity for businesses to conduct data analysis, looking at the internal forces facing their business, all the internal within the four walls of your business, but also start to think externally. What do you need to know externally outside of your business? And what are those data sets? And where do you get access to those data and start bringing those in so that you can take a look? If you're in an industry that's regulated by the government, how is that impacting your company? If what's happening with technology, how does that impact your company? You have to look at all these external forces that are facing your business so that you are mindful and you have a set strategy in place for data gathering and data collection. So you start with the internal factors, but you have to look at the external forces that are affecting your business. And one of the key external forces facing your business are things like the economy, your competition, is just as an example. So you have to pay attention and you have to put together a process to actually bring that in and actually look at it. And the bridge is a tool that helps you do that effectively. I'm going to walk you through what the research bridge is in a minute. Another exercise that you need to go through is something called a product portfolio mapping exercise. And what is that? That's a way of looking at your current value proposition and determining how your products and services are performing for your business? Is sales trending on the upswing or not? What's happening with your margin? Is it increasing? Is it decreasing? So you have to look at your current portfolio. And why do you do that? Because again, small to mid-sized businesses don't have deep pockets. They have to find ways that they can identify opportunities for savings to take costs out of the operation so that they can then redeploy those financial resources as well as some of the human resources, and we'll talk about that in a minute, and redeploy them away from those products that aren't performing towards those that will or can. And that's called portfolio analysis, and we're going to talk about that. And then there's a process of innovation and new product innovation, new product development. So you think about it this way. You've got your existing portfolio of products and services, how you're currently generating revenue. And that's critically important. That's the stuff that keeps the light on, your ability to make payroll, all the things. Critically important. But you need to simultaneously be planning for the long term and developing and innovating new products, new services, new value for your customer. But you won't know what those new products or service opportunities are unless you have the information available to help you make those informed decisions. And so think of it this way. If you can focus on a way of working within your current portfolio and finding potentially new markets for what you currently offer, that's a beautiful thing. That can generate incremental revenue. And you can continue to do that while you're planning for the future. So your portfolio analysis will help you make better short-term investments. And then you need to simultaneously be building and innovating because the product development process is a longer process. So that new product development process will equate to revenue growth in the future. But both of these processes have to work in parallel, and you need to have tools available to you to help you do both simultaneously. And I'm going to teach you how to do that today. And then there's marketing and brand communications. So do you have a marketing plan? What's your brand positioning for your products and services? How do you talk about your products? How do you talk about your value? What channels of distribution are you implementing? Are you leaving money on the table? And we're going to talk about how you develop an effective marketing strategy, marketing plan, and brand positioning strategy for your business. And then we're going to talk about measurements, because again, you have to be measuring all the way through, because again, you have to make sure that where you are making investments is actually providing a positive return on investment for you. And if it isn't, the sooner that you know that it isn't, the better it will be for you. And then there's the creation of your strategic plan. And so you take all these insights from all the data and all the analysis, your research bridge, your product portfolio map, and an understanding of the new value that you need to be creating and the impact that has on your operating budget. You put all that together in your business plan, because your business plan at the end of the day needs to be actionable. You need to be able to implement on your business plan. This is not a long narrative that sits in a binder that goes in a file cabinet somewhere and collects dust. And I'll be the first one to tell you, how many of those have I done in my lifetime? Many of them. I can't even begin to tell you how many beautiful plans I've written that have sat in a desk with collecting dust. It doesn't work. You have to have a plan that is actionable and is easy to implement and easy to share across the organization, so that all your teams, all functional areas of your company are in alignment with the key objectives and strategies of your business. And I'm going to teach that to you as well today. So let's talk about the research bridge. So one of the biggest misses in strategic planning is your ability to pull those data sets out of your data repository and inform your strategy. And many of them actually go through the exercise of analyzing data and looking at it and coming up with, some shared understanding of what it's telling them. But that has to translate to your business plan, because it won't be actionable if it's not living on your business plan as a key initiative of your business. So there was a gap in this process. And so we found that in order to facilitate better planning, you needed to build a bridge so that you could actually have the data that you needed and make it actionable. So that's why the bridge is so helpful. And so going through the bridge process and the bridge build, which I'm going to teach you in a minute, you go through this process and you very quickly understand what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, and your opportunities and your threats. So as you sift through the data, and I'm not going to sugarcoat this. This is a process. It is quite a can be a daunting process when you're dealing with disparate data sets and lots of data sets, right? It's hard to go through all this information. But if you did this one thing, so today, if at the end of the day, I always talk about key takeaways, and what are the most meaningful takeaways for you today will be this. If you build your bridge, you will have in your bridge everything you need to know to craft your business strategy. That's your marketing strategy. That's your operating plan. That's your go-to-market, your channel strategy, your brand platform. All those things will live and come alive on your research bridge. So you're going to get your SWOT analysis. You'll have it identified. Then the bridge will also help you get clarity about your mission and your vision. And it will specifically identify opportunities about your customers, your products, your supply chain, your vulnerabilities, your value proposition, your pricing, your operational effectiveness, your service quality. Think of this as working across your enterprise, across your organization. And even if you're a really small business, you're still developing value, still are offering products and services. You have a go-to-market strategy. You have to deliver on your product or your service. You have to distribute that to your marketplace. So think of it that this is a process that helps you cross-functionally and enterprise-wide. And this is what I love about the power of the bridge, is that when you're done going through this information and going through this analysis, you literally hand the bridge to all your department heads. You could hand it to your marketing director, your head of HR, your head of IT, your head of sales, and on, head of customer service, call center operations, whatever, because everything that they need to know will reside in the bridge. And they're, of course, looking at it from their functional department perspective. So this is a tool. It's one of the most important tools that you'll have as a department head to move forward and be able to identify from the bridge what your objectives and strategies and key initiatives are for your department, for your functional area. So your HR director, this is just an example, would use a bridge to identify opportunities to engage employees, to reduce turnover, to improve employee satisfaction, retention, loyalty. So think about this. On your strategic plan, from your employee perspective, what are some of the objectives and metrics, KPIs, on your strategic plan? What's your turnover rate? What's your employee satisfaction level? What's your employee retention and loyalty? How are you scoring on those metrics? The bridge will inform you where you have opportunities for improvement, and where you're doing a good job. You take those things and celebrate the successes. But the thing that's really important is it will tell you where your shortfalls are and where you maybe should emphasize certain strategies over others. So that's from an HR perspective. The marketing director will do the same thing. Are there marketing campaigns that you're running? Look at your entire marketing strategy. Are your email marketing strategies working for you? Are they not? Are your social media, online advertising, whatever it is that providing a positive return to you? And you'll know, because you'll do the work, you'll do the math, you'll have the information you need to be able to take that, assess the viability of those campaigns, and then you can make the shifts that are necessary. And the thing that's really interesting about this is that you don't have to wait a long period of time before you can course correct. So we'll talk about that as well. And your IT director would take the bridge and say, okay, I now have a sense of what types of data and information that's required by all my business partners, all my stakeholders, to help them make better informed business decisions. So now your IT has a better sense of opportunities and maybe where they could add more value and be more helpful to you in gathering more data that's more in alignment with what your requirements are. So each department can use the bridge to inform the business strategy from their perspective, from their point of view, for their area of responsibility. So we're going to shift now and talk about the product portfolio management process. And we're going to look, because this is critically important for you to understand where you should stop spending today. I'm going to say that again, where you should stop spending today. And why do you want to do that? Because you want to be able to shift your resources. You want to be able to say, if I've got a product in my portfolio that is providing a negative return on investment, I've got operating budget dollars, I'm paying people to work on, maybe it's a product manager or a product marketing manager that's working on that product or that product category, but that product category is not providing a financial return to the business. You're going to know that. And you're going to be able to say, you know what? I'm going to redeploy that person. Instead of having them work on X product category, product line, I'm going to move them over and shift them over to work on another product category where the opportunity for revenue growth or profitability is, it has a greater significance. So we're going to walk you through what that looks like. And by going through this exercise, you're also going to get some learnings about where there are gaps in your portfolio. Where are you missing? Where are you missing the boat? What's going on with your customer base or a market opportunity that maybe you haven't been paying attention to, but now all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, we need to go through the development process, because again, the development process, the innovative product development process, is considered a long-term process. It takes time to vet an idea, to decide if there's a go, no go, if you should make or buy, test and launch, and all the things that are involved in new product development. I'm going to walk you through that process in a minute. But you have to be able to find short-term wins while you're building for the long term. So, and then those long-term product opportunities are part of your pipeline of development. So, product portfolio mapping helps you identify opportunities for growth of your existing portfolio by positioning your existing products more effectively. So you may say, okay, we've got our current portfolio. Where else can we sell these products or services? What new market applications could be viable for us? Again, that's, stepping out of the status quo and thinking more creatively and saying, where are there applications for your current portfolio and potential new markets? You need to ask yourself that question. You need to identify and look at your pricing and your cost structure so that you're able to maximize the revenue and the profitability of your current portfolio. You have to support the product life cycle, because if you haven't done product life cycle analysis in a while, do it. It's really, really important, because you may find that there are products that are, in the mature cycle of their life, and, time to, retire them, exit them, say goodbye. Maybe there are those products or services that you offer that are loss leaders, and you may say, we're going to continue to offer those products or services, even if they're not profitable because they're legacy products to our organization. And we have maybe existing customers who would be negatively impacted if you retire those products. But my point is that you will make these decisions based upon data and information, and not based upon emotion. And another point I want to make about not making decisions based on emotion, but making decisions based on informed business insights and data analytics, is because it gives you the ability to stand up around the table at the planning meetings with your peers all around the table and the leadership all around the table, and make your case for why you're making a recommendation for potentially new budget dollars or redeployment of budget dollars, because now you'll have the hard facts to be able to support your recommendation. So these decisions that are made pragmatically. They're based in data analytics. They're not based on emotions. And I have to tell you, I facilitated lots of planning meetings with lots of leadership around the table, and vice presidents, and the board level directors around the table. And how many people fight to maintain offering a product or a service, knowing that it's unprofitable for the business because it's based on emotion and not based on analytics or facts. And so it gives you a strength to stand up and say, well, wait a minute. We did the analysis. This is what's happening from, sales growth is, declining, profitability, margins declining. This product lives in the exit quadrant of our product map. Why are we going to continue to offer this product? Because there's an opportunity cost if you do that. You're not allocating those human and financial resources to focus on those products or services that could provide a greater return to you. And it helps you make the argument when you're around the table having those discussions. It's very, very powerful. So that's I'm going to show you how to do that in a minute. So why should you consider conducting this kind of a review? Again, small to mid-sized businesses, there aren't deep pockets. You can't just arbitrarily go through the process of innovating and developing new products and services. Who's going to work on them? Are you going to take resources away from what you're currently doing to focus on the new? And how do you make those determinations if that's a viable strategy for you? So this is the short-term win here, is to do your portfolio map that can provide financial solvency and help position you for growth. So, and as you go through this process, you are going to uncover those new opportunities for new value creation, because also what the data is going to tell you is where you have gaps, where you're missing a competitive advantage. Maybe you're at a competitive disadvantage because now all of a sudden you're paying attention. Maybe someone else, your competitors, is further down the development cycle than you are. Their speed to market is a lot speedier than yours. And so this is part of the insights that come from going through an exercise like this. It helps you position for long-term growth. So when you're gathering all this information, you think about, okay, Deb, you talk about big data sets, lots of data from lots of different sources, internal sources, external sources. Again, trying to be really specific here on the how. This is what you gather. You need to look at an analysis of industry and market size. What's going on in your industry? Step outside of yourself, step out of the four walls, look externally and what's happening in your industry and where and what market dynamics are impacting your business, impacting your value creation, impacting your ability to drive revenue or drive profitability. So analysis of industry and market size. You have to understand how big is. That's market size analysis. Analysis of the product life cycle. Again, you may have products that are at the end of their viability. But if you don't do the analysis, you won't know that. And if you make assumptions that those products, they've served you well in the past, historically, but if you haven't looked at the emerging trends of what's trending over, several years time, sales up, sales down, margin up, margin down, you won't have the knowledge that you need to make those decisions. And then you have to look at market segmentation. We're going to talk about that because the research bridge is built, and the starting point for the bridge is market segmentation, where you're looking at all your disparate customer segments. Why do you do this? Because not all customer segments are created equal. And I'm going to ask you this question. When was the last time that you did a customer profile analysis where you looked at the demographics of your customers, the psychographics, the behaviors, et cetera, When was the last time you did a customer profile analysis to really understand who your customers are and where they're finding value in your products and services and where they're not? And what is the risk that's associated with where you're not? So that we're going to talk about market segmentation in a little bit. And then we're going to look at financial performance, because you have to look at sales growth and margin growth over a certain period of time. And typically when we're going through this process, you're looking at maybe going back 3 years. So you're looking at trends, sales trends and margin trends for a product or a product category. But what happened with the pandemic is that kind of blew up, because now all of a sudden there were so many anomalies in data that we said, let's take a pause. We need to go back pre-pandemic to have a sense of normalcy. And so instead of going back just the 3 years, go back 5 or even 7 years and look at how sales is trending, positively or not, and margin positively or not, and have that information at your fingertips. So and then you need to go through, kind of, as I said, when you're doing the initial data gathering process, you'd be surprised what you know about your customers and your products and your value by just gathering the information that's at your fingertips through the reports that you already use to manage your business, through accounting information. If you've done customer satisfaction surveys, fabulous. If you haven't done it in a while, I would highly encourage you. You have to increase the touch points with your customers to make sure. And this, again, pertains to an enterprise-wide approach. It's not just marketing's responsibility or sales responsibility to gather this information. You have to ask everybody around the organization, all the functional areas of the business. You'd be surprised so if you take marketing and sales out of the equation, you'd be surprised what operations knows about your customers, because they're fulfilling the orders. They're in charge of fulfillment. They're going to tell you, right? They're going to tell you about service quality when they start to see the returns coming back. It's just an example. Or of course, your field salespeople are out in the field. They're talking to customers. They're getting really, verbatim feedback. And all this information has to come in from all these disparate parts of your organization, and they have to be aggregated in some way in some sort of a central repository, so that you can look at that and make informed business decisions. And if you put a process together to do that, then that makes, and you do that as a kind of business as usual, you get to the point where it's part of your standard operating procedure, where you're soliciting customer feedback and bringing it in, and marketing's looking at it, because marketing may say, you know what, we're missing an opportunity. We should be innovating and creating a new product, or this product is no longer viable from my point of view. And then you're bringing that to the table, and then you're talking to your salespeople. What's your point of view about what I just said? And then you're asking your fulfillment people and your service quality people, the people in the warehouse who are picking, packing, and shipping and managing all the returns coming back. And then your accounting and finance team. So you see what's happening here is the power of doing this at an enterprise level, where you've got representation around the table. And I'm going to talk about at the very end of my remarks today about when you're building your strategic plan. This is not something that is done only at the leadership level and pushed down into the organization. Because if that's the way it's working in your organization, you're missing a really great opportunity. And I'm going to talk to you about that as well. So utilize learnings from your existing research. If you are hosting events, have you done event surveys, post-event evaluations? What did people find value in? What did they like about your event? Where were there opportunities for improvement? Where should you be course correcting? Or maybe there's an opportunity to add something new to your events. Do you have, product scorecards? Do you have, do you ask your customers specific questions about the value, your product's value? Are you delivering on your brand promise? And I'm serious about this when I say that you need to have a really good understanding of your brand dynamics. Is your brand, are your products, your services, your value to your customers, is it relevant? Is it authentic? And is it differentiated? So relevancy, is it meeting their needs? Is it taking care of the problem, the pain points that they're experiencing today, right now? Yes or no? Is it authentic? Is the quality there? Is the service quality? Is your brand promise actually what is being perceived by your customer? And is it differentiated? Can you say with full conviction that your products or services are better than the competition because of X, because of Y, because of Z? You need to be armed with that information, and your marketing people need to be armed with that because they're doing the messaging. Your salespeople need to be armed with that because they're in the field, many cases in front of customers, talking daily with customers. Your operations people need to know that. Your accounting people need to know that. You've got people not paying invoices because of a perceived lack of service quality, and on and on. So you can see the magnitude and importance of being able to take this information, provide it throughout the organization, let everybody react to it, and then collectively come together and collaborate on a best path forward. It's probably one of the most meaningful ways of gaining consensus and alignment throughout your company. And it's not just at the leadership level. It's at the leadership cascading all the way down through the organization. And I'm going to show you how to do that. So let's go through the process of conducting a product portfolio review. So you are going to map your existing products and programs to 4 quadrants, and you're going to use a level set list as a starting point. So for each one of your products, or if you have many, many, many products, you could do this at the product category level. Ask the following question for each product and identify growth, the growth opportunity. What market opportunities do you see to grow this product, and what investments would be necessary for you to do that? Maintain that product. What changes or improvements would you make to that product? Turnaround. What does the outcome of a turnaround strategy look like, and at what level of investment? Or is this something that is a product that's no longer viable? It's not providing a return for you. And if you did decide to sunset that, what would the impact be on your customers? So those are some of those 4 questions about growth, maintaining, turnaround, and exiting. So this is a very simple quadrant. And on the x-axis, you have your sales, and on your y-axis, you have your margin. So what you're going to do here is look at each of your products, or again, product categories, and you're going to plot your products on the quadrant in the appropriate square, if you will. So if you have a product or product category that is where sales is trending over maybe 5 years now, not 3, but 5 or even longer, if sales are trending high and your sales is high and maybe your margin is low, and I'll start there, that is an opportunity to turn that product around. Okay. So you may say, you know what? Sales is high. That's a good thing. But margin's not, it's not as profitable as we'd like it to be. What can we do about that? Okay. You say, you know what? That's a fair question. Maybe there's a way to think about, maybe your pricing you can change your pricing policy for that product category. Obviously your customer is perceiving value because your sales is increasing over time. That's a good thing, right? But there may be ways to improve your profitability. So you have to look at all the operating costs that are accumulating in order to provide that value to your customers, and find ways of taking costs out of that process. And so that then backs up into looking at your processes and looking at ways of maybe reducing redundancy in your processes. Just a little anecdotal comment here about when you're going through an exercise like this. What it's sort of, many cases, it comes down to this. When you're seeing a lack of profitability, typically it's because you have redundancies in your operational processes, your internal processes. And so what we do is, help organizations go through literally a process mapping exercise. If you haven't done this before, I can certainly share more about that as well. But it's literally, we take yellow Post-it notes and we write down all the steps in a process from beginning to end. What does it take to launch an email marketing campaign, as one example? And you write every step of the process. And so you're step by step by step. And then you look at all the people that are involved in all those steps. And you look at the operating budget, look at your actual operating costs for all those steps. And invariably, you will find a significant amount of redundancies in your processes. So what you do in that room when you have all your Post-it notes around the wall is you go through and all of a sudden, you're taking Post-it notes off the wall. That's a redundant process. That's a redundant process. That's a redundant process. And every time you do that, you're taking costs out of the people that are working on that process, and that's savings to your business. So over time, you're accumulating all these little savings, and they add up. You keep doing this and improving your processes and becoming more operationally efficient is a great way of making these being able to turn around this product or product category that's doing that. The customers, there's market demand, the customers see the value. That's great, but it's got to work better for you and has to be more profitable. So I would say take a step, take a pause for those products that are in your turnaround quadrant. Take a moment, do some work, go back and do a process mapping exercise, and then come back and tell me how many steps in your processes were redundant, because I love to hear that from clients and from customers. So please share that with me. So back to the quadrant here. You also have products that are trending high. Sales is trending high over 5 years. Again, a beautiful thing. And margin is high. That's beautiful, right? These are keepers. You want to keep these. Keep investment. Keep these products. Your customers, your marketplace is seeing the value. They're highly profitable. You want to take care of these. You want to maintain your position here. Whatever you're doing is working. You don't have to worry about these. There are others that need your attention. Okay. So then now we're going to shift and we're going to look at the invest and grow. Now here you have products where sales is low, but your margin is high. These are your most highly profitable products of your company, but sales isn't. You could do better when it comes to the sales. So you want to continue to invest here. So that's a consideration, but these are your treasures. These are products and services. You just maybe have to do some work at understanding. Maybe it's shifting your sales strategy, doing some market research, helping understand, maybe maybe it's a messaging. Maybe your sales strategy needs some work. And pull in your sales team and ask them to be part of that conversation. And then, of course, there are going to be those products and services that are, they may be legacy products, and they may be products or services you've offered for many years. And you may be emotionally invested in those products and services, but they just are not working for you. And so you have to ask yourself the hard question, because here sales is declining over time and margin is declining over time. And then for all those products that live in this quadrant, you add it up, you do the math, and you walk out of this exercise with found savings. That's a cause for celebration. And you may have to do battle around the table with your peers and your leadership to make the case for why. But when you have those data sets in front of you and all those financials in front of you to make the case and take your position, and you have the backup you need, it takes the emotion out of the conversation. And that's where you want to be. You want to make these decisions based on pragmatic data and analysis. And this allows you to do that. So this process is called portfolio analysis. It's very, very powerful. It helps you, have the conversations about, okay, we've got a viable product, but maybe we need to change our pricing strategy for that product to make it more profitable? Or where can we sell? What new markets would be applicable for this existing product or service? Where could we sell more? Where could we increase the volume, the sales volume, and have that contribute to our growth? So this is probably, in addition to the research bridge, which we're going to walk through here shortly, this is probably one of the most powerful exercises, and it doesn't matter how small a business you are. You don't have deep pockets as a small to mid-sized business owner. You just don't. So, and you want to be armed with the information so that you can make recommendations to your team about why you're recommending that you stop investing in one product over another, and help you make the case. But this information gives you a seat at the table. And I've been around the table. I facilitated this meeting, so many years of doing this, and the battles that are had at the table. And that's okay, because at the end of the day, and they're all having these internal arguments, but I'm the one that's standing there asking the very pragmatic question about, well, this is sales. This is what your sales are trending over time. This is what's happening with margin. And if you stop doing this, we know what the numbers are, so we'll know what the savings could be. Now all of a sudden, that's, I call it, the pot of gold, the bucket of money, all of a sudden that says, you know what? Now I actually have some additional financial resources that maybe we could then use to fund some of and innovate to fund the longer term product development cycle for future revenue growth. So it's a very, very powerful exercise. I highly encourage you to take a look at it. So when you're going through this product portfolio mapping exercise, you are going to identify the growth strategies, what you believe are the potential growth opportunities as an organization. This will help you identify new markets for your existing products. Short-term wins, right? Existing products, currently offer them, new market opportunities, new pricing recommendations. Let's not leave money on the table. Again, by doing research, market research, you'll have an understanding of maybe there is some wiggle room there in your pricing strategy, and you should take advantage of that. You may be leaving money on the table that you don't want to. And you'll also understand gaps in your portfolio. Where's there a miss? Where is there a gap? Where should you be innovating? Again, innovation, it's a beautiful thing, but it takes time and it takes investment. It takes your financial resources and it takes your people resources as well. And there are always the opportunity costs, right? Because people can't work on everything all the time. Then you have to identify the priorities, because again, priorities, they're not created equal, right? So you have to identify a list of potential top priorities. And these are going to either be improvements to your existing portfolio or an articulation of new value that you should be creating. You're going to identify the top 2 or 3 most critical priorities. You're going to rank them in order of importance, and then you're going to prepare your rationale. And this is where the power comes in of doing this. You're going through this exercise not just by yourself. You're going through this at the enterprise level. And why are you doing this? Again, everybody's affected by these decisions. Marketing's affected, sales affected, operations is affected, HR is affected, IT's affected, finance is affected. You have to have representation, cross-functional representation around the table. If your vice presidents and above are the only people going through this work and going through this exercise, that's not an ideal situation. Vice presidents know what they know. But I am here to tell you, I have been in these rooms and I've opened up these discussions to other parts of the organization, cross-functionally, so that horizontal throughout the organization, but also different levels of responsibility, from vice presidents down to shop floor employees. And this is interesting, and I'm just going to say that. There's all kinds of dynamics that come with that. The leaders, and typically will say, it's really leadership. The senior staff, senior leadership team should be responsible for planning and going through this work. And I would say you would be surprised at the aha moments that happen in these meetings when you're going through work like this, where all of a sudden you've got a territory manager who's got a client in Boise, Idaho, who comes into that meeting and is sitting at either, if he's not at the table, sitting around the table, but is in the room. And because I'm in many cases facilitating these meetings, I can ask that territory manager whose territory includes Boise, Idaho, who's got a client who has either likes or dislikes or has an issue or whatever, or service quality problem, whatever it is, just to put forth their opinion and based upon what feedback do they have. And this is powerful in many ways. Number one, when you do this, this is one of the best ways of generating employee retention that I've ever seen. Because now all of a sudden that territory manager who's focused on Boise, Idaho knows that he or she or they, their point of view is being heard. That they're not just out there doing their job and, slugging through, sales and dealing with clients, et cetera, and trying to meet a quota, whatever. They know that there is someone paying attention to what they're saying. And you do that cross-functionally. So now all of a sudden you've got somebody over here saying, maybe it's a operations person saying, you know what, I've had that same experience. And all of a sudden it's validating what this territory manager said, and all of a sudden there's connections being made. And so this is something that you have to do. And even if you're small, and even if you outsource a lot of services at this point, bring your service providers in to do this. I've actually done this with service providers in the room. So for really small companies that are really trying to get a handle on this, you bring in your stakeholders. Think about of all the and you're going to identify this because one of the first parts of the process that I'm not talking about today because I have limited time is when you're building your team, one of the first things you're going to do as part of the strategic planning process is identify who your planning team is. Who are the stakeholders that need to be involved in this? So you're going to go through an exercise about, okay, who in accounting should be part of this? Who in operations? Okay, who in IT? Who in HR? Who in marketing? Who in sales? So, and you're going to have different levels. You're going to have leadership, of course, but you're going to have other people, middle managers. And this is another thing, another big plus about this, professional development of your people. This is very powerful for a lot of reasons, but there have been many occasions where I've sat in the room and seen this dynamic go on, and all of a sudden, someone may not be at the actual board table, but sitting in the chair in the room, will think, you know what, oh wow, I didn't know that much about IT, or I didn't really understand the shop floor, process and how they're fulfilling orders and picking, packing, and shipping and all that, and the warehouse and, inventory management and all those things. Wow. I'm selling, but now all of a sudden I'm interested in how either the manufacturing process or the distribution process, or, and now I want to know more about that. So now all of a sudden you've just identified a professional development opportunity for that resource. So what do? You may say, okay, we're working on, we've got all these projects going on in the company. How would you like to be on that project team? To come in, participate on that project team, bring your point of view. So you just helped to generate employee satisfaction, employee retention, employee professional development. That employee is going to rise to the occasion. And what do? You make sure that you provide them with the appropriate tools that they need to be successful. So maybe you've got a salesperson who wants to go into operations, and they're all of a sudden they're like, oh my God, I had no line of sight about this. I'm really excited about learning something new. Maybe I want to do a career move. And then you say, you know what? Okay. And I've done this before many times. And this is also very, very positive and very powerful, is you may have somebody like that. You may say, you know what? I'm going to pick you up and take you out of that job. And I'm going to put you over here in this job. And I'm going to give you 6 months. No harm, no foul. Come in, learn it, get involved, we'll give you the tools you need to be successful, training, whatever that is, whatever that professional development looks like for you. We're going to make that available to you. And then you can tell me 6 months from now if you want to stay or you want to go back. And no harm, no foul. That is unbelievably powerful, because think about, and then they go and and then they make their career decision. But then they're telling their peers, oh, again, you're walking the walk and talking the talk. You're providing access to these people to come and contribute. And one thing that's really powerful, I'm going to end with when I talk about the balanced scorecard, the actual plan document itself. And the reason why this is so powerful is that if employees can see how they matter to the organization, how their work matters, and they see a career path for themselves that maybe they never saw before because they never had an opportunity provided to them, think about what you just did to that employee, and the word of mouth to that employee's peers, and the fact that you are providing professional development opportunities. It's on your strategic plan, and they can look at their strategic plan, and because every employee will have a copy of the strategic plan, they're going to look at it and go, oh, my work, the work that I do in my job, supports this objective, this strategy, and this measurement. So I know when I come into work every day that my work matters, that I matter. And you want to talk about shifting organizational culture, that's a way to do it. I'm going to talk more about that in a little bit. So, benefits for your company. By going through this process, this identifies data-driven and fiscally responsible opportunities to drive customer value. It's going to drive your customer retention goals. It's going to support your new customer acquisition goals. It's going to support your customer satisfaction goals. Now think about your strategic plan and think about your KPIs, key performance indicators. Is this ringing a bell, right? Because all of a sudden you may be at whatever your baseline measurement is for customer satisfaction, but now, you're seeing customer satisfaction improve or customer retention improve. You're having an impact by implementing these strategies, and it's going to drive revenue growth. It's going to help support your investment decisions. It will help you identify where you should be investing short-term and where to limit investment, the savings, the bucket of money, the bucket of gold that you can redeploy, and where you should withdraw investment. But it's going to give you the information that you need to say no, and say no with conviction, armed with the data points that you need in order to make your business case. It's also going to help you identify opportunities to improve your operating margin and profitability. It's going to support your effective business support processes. Again, back to the process mapping exercise. You're going to take a step back and look at how you started, how you got here, what's happening along the way, who's working on what, and ask them. This is another powerful thing. I've facilitated the process mapping exercise many, many times. It's a way more powerful when they're doing it themselves. They're doing the work. They know better than I do where the redundancies are, where the gaps are. So to sit back, number one, just walk them through a little training exercise, and then I sit back and watch them do this, and to see the collaboration and the synergies and the aha moments about, oh my goodness, there's a redundancy, and it becomes almost a game, because every time there's a redundancy, we take that and put that on the redundancy wall, and then we do the math and figure out what it cost to have that redundant step in the process. It's very, very powerful. Benefits for your company. Cohesive and aligned staff teams, your boards, your committees. Everybody has a say in a vote. So when we get through all this process and we go to the final priorities, and again, not all priorities are created equal, but everybody gets a say and everybody gets a vote. It's not just the board members making decisions. It's the board members. Maybe there are a couple in the meeting. It's not, I don't like to do it all with board level people. It's much more powerful when you have that. You may have one or two board members, which could be somewhat, a little bit intimidating for maybe middle managers that you have in there. But here's another thing. The way we go into this is by doing this. It's by setting an expectation that this is a safe place So you may be the territory that covers Boise, Idaho, and you're sitting in a room that's got your senior vice president of national sales, right? And you're saying something in that room that may be a little makes you a little uncomfortable to say, but it's your experience, it's your point of view. That senior vice president of sales knows going in, because we've had a little conversation before this, because we're managing expectations and we're managing behaviors. I can't even begin to tell you the power of doing this, of how many times I've seen the senior leaders of organizations go, I had no idea that was happening. And I hear that multiple times when we're doing these sessions. I hear this all the time from senior leaders, vice presidents and up, including board officers. I had no idea that was happening. So, and all of a sudden, what did you just do for the territory manager in Boise, Idaho? He had a voice. He had a say. Guess what? He's voting too. He's prioritizing right next to the senior vice president of sales. Everybody has a say. Everybody has a vote. Very, very important. You can integrate all this into your strategic planning cycle and into your operating plan development. It can lead to more effective product management and new product development, which ultimately is going to support your growth objectives. From a branding standpoint, this is where this hits home. It helps your company remain relevant, authentic, and differentiated. This is your brand value. This is what you stand for. It's periodic, critical, objective, and data-driven review. So you're not just doing this every few years. You're doing this certainly at least at an annual basis. And then we do checks, every quarter to see if there's new data insights or data sets that are coming, new things happening in the industry, the marketplace. So you're refreshing your plan on a quarterly basis. The process is current, it's timely, it ensures alignment to the strategic plan, and the process just keeps going. We refer to it as evergreen. It's an evergreen process. You do it, you build the process this way, you plan this way with all these inputs, and you do it and you keep on top of it every quarter. I'm going to shift now and talk a little bit about innovation and creating new value for your customers. You can see just by looking at this graphic, this is a process. This is a long process. So there's no shortage of ideas that are coming in for new products and services. You're hearing them from your customers. You're hearing them from your competitive analysis that you're doing. There are all these ideas coming in. Your people, your territory manager in Boise, Idaho, he's hearing what he's hearing. You've got your, Sally in New York, same thing. She's got her customers. Or all these insights are coming in. All this information is coming in. They have to be reviewed. So we kind of think of this as an idea funnel. There has to be some place where all this comes and lands so that you review it and analyze it. So you're going to go through an idea screen. You're going to look at all these opportunities, and you're going to kind of go through this kind of an analysis, a very high level analysis about, is this a viable thing worth considering? Yes or no? Okay, that if it is, if it gets a yes, and you go into the scoping process, you're scoping the opportunity, business case analysis, taking a sense of what's involved in doing this. How big an initiative is this? What's the impact on the organization? And then you've got to do the math. You've got to understand the market size, the market potential. You have to forecast all those things and build your business case so that you can ultimately get to the point where you get the go. And if it's a no-go, off it goes, and you prioritize, look at the next one in the pipeline. And this process is iterative. It goes on, it goes on all the time. It has to go on all the time, because you have to pay attention to what's going on, again, outside of the four walls of your business. You have to look at what's going on economically, environmentally, regulatory, technology, all those things. And all these new ideas are going to come flooding in, but you have to have a process that's going to review them all and either move them through the process timeline, the pipeline here, or quickly say it's a no-go, goodbye, And then for those that make the go, then you've got to go through the development process. You may say, we're going to develop. It could be a make versus buy. You go through all that work. And then you're testing, you're validating, you're launching, you're measuring. But again, you look at this and go, this isn't a simple process. Now, the good thing is that you can fund this process because you just found the pot of gold savings from your portfolio review. And so now you may be able to say, you know what, maybe you've got two things that come out that are goes, that you've all prioritized are goes for your organization, new products that you want to develop. And you can afford to fund two of them. So those become the top two priorities of the organization. And then you move forward with development, launch, promotion, tracking, measuring, and then moving forward. So you see the importance of you have to have a short-term strategy and a long-term strategy working side by side. So that's portfolio review, current products and services. Do better with what you currently are offering while this is happening in parallel. You have to do them in parallel. And you can fund this if you do them in parallel and you've done the portfolio work. So let's talk a little bit about marketing and branding, because this is all great and it's a beautiful thing, but you need to be able to promote your products and services. You have to ensure that you've got the right value, that you're developing the right value proposition. And you will, if you've gone through all this upfront work with analyzing information and data. And so you have to you've got to be able to articulate your value proposition. You have to think about all the communication channels that you have available to you. What are your communication channels? Okay. Are you doing email marketing campaigns? Are you doing online advertising? Are you writing articles in magazines? Are you leveraging your strategic alliances or your strategic partners, your channel partners, on and on and on? How are you communicating the value message to your customers? So, and what does that messaging need to be? Messaging needs to be appropriate. And ultimately, because you are dealing with targeting and segmenting and trying to reach a specific target audience, you have to make sure that for that specific target audience, that ideal customer segment, that you've got the right value, and you're reaching them through the right channel with the right messaging, so that you can generate awareness about that product or service, and over time, through consistent promotion, get them to know, to like, and to trust you, and ultimately transact with you. So this is, if you look at this big circle, this is your marketing strategy on a page right here. So you don't have to write a big, long narrative, that goes in a binder that sits in a file cabinet. I have them. They're still in the file cabinet collecting dust. If this is your marketing plan. So you're talking about your brand pillars. All of this is based on the pillars of your brand. So your mission, your vision, your core values as an organization, how you behave as an organization, your purpose, your voice, your tone, your look, your feel. Then your value proposition, it's either your product, it's a service, it's a feature. It's intended to make you attractive to your customers. Again, communication channel, just the medium that you're getting your message pushed through to your intended customers. Could be, again, email campaigns. Believe it or not, people talk about email, and a lot of people don't believe in email marketing, but I'm here to tell you that email campaigns, email marketing is not dead. Highly encourage you to put together email marketing campaigns. They're very powerful. And if you do them and you invest in them and you're consistent with your strategies, they can be very powerful indeed. So don't discount them. I know a lot of people are more interested in social media, online advertising, but you have to do them all. But I wouldn't discount the email campaign. So give that some thought. You should have strategies in place for lead generation, for building interest, getting people to come in and subscribe to your newsletters, and to something of value for them so that they can engage with you. So don't discount that. That's really important. Telemarketing, social media, mobile apps, catalogs, media partners. Again, look at all the communication channels that are available. So you'd be surprised if you sat down and thought about this. There are really a lot of them. And maybe some you work with, some you don't. But look at them all that are available to you, that you have access to, and consider that. And then your messaging. So you have to refer to the underlying value proposition that's conveyed and the language that you use in your content that make buyers relate to your brand by inspiring them, persuading them, motivating them, and ultimately making them want to buy. That's the know, the like, the trust. And then your target audience, back to my earlier point about doing a customer profile analysis. If you haven't done one in a while, I'd say after this masterclass today, go do it. Do a customer profile analysis. And this is really important to understand if you're on point with how your products and your services are in alignment or where they're not. And who you're serving, understanding who you're serving. What are they buying from you, right? And who are these customers that are buying from you? What's their profile? And what do they value? What do you know about them? What do you not know about them that you need to know more about? And how do you implement some sort of a research study in order to get more information about them? So you can be very specific in the way that you align your value to them and the way that you message to them to showcase your value. Very, very important. So that's marketing and brand positioning. Okay. And I had to put this in here because this was me. I used to do this. I'm a convert now, but I used to be this person who did all these plans and all these big binders, and it's overwhelming. I still do it. Actually, I did one recently where I wrote a very long business plan, and sometimes you have to do that just to get it out of your head and into a document. But you can't make that actionable because it's just too much. It's too big. A narrative is a narrative. It's not an actionable plan. And so this kind of really sets us up for the next part of the conversation, which is strategic planning and the balanced scorecard. So all of these processes and steps that I've shared with you today brings us here to something called the balanced scorecard. So this is a tool, this is a planning tool that eliminates any need to have many binders with long narratives in those binders. You want your strategic plan to be actionable, and you needed to have it front and center in front of all of your employees. You can't do that with a big, long narrative in a binder. You just can't. Because you have to make sure that your strategic plan is personalized to each employee. It sounds daunting. If you're a very large company with a lot of employees, that sounds daunting. But we'll talk about that in a minute. So what you're doing here is really planning from 4 different perspectives of your business. You're planning from a financial point of view, of course. Everybody understands that. You have key objectives, financial objectives, strategies to get there. You've got your key performance indicators. You have your customer perspective. So this is making sure that you've got the right value to offer your customers that make them want to buy from you. You've got your processes, your internal processes and operations, because you need to deliver on that promise of that value to your customers. You have to make sure you've got the right workflow processes, you've got efficiencies, you're not having redundant steps in your process, all those process efficiencies, that you've got some sort of continuous process improvement strategies in place that are standard operating procedure for your business, how you fulfill those orders, how you get your product to your customer efficiently in a timely manner, all those important things, service quality. And then you have your employee learning and growth perspective. So your objectives for your business, your key strategies for your business are segmented into 4 different categories. It's not just a financial plan. And so there's two schools of thought here. And typically when you go through planning, and prior to my conversation about when I used to do this, working with senior leaders of an organization, certainly at the board level, it's the plans built at the senior level, and it's it's not even cascading down into the organization. It's pushed down into the organization. And that, it is what it is, right? Or it was what it was. And that still happens in a lot of organizations. But I'm going to flip this upside down and have you think about it this way. Think about this. If you have the right employees with the right skills and talents, doing the right work, they're happy, they're satisfied, they have opportunities for development, they feel like they're an integral part of the organization, that they're making a contribution, and they see where they are of value, and you have the right internal processes in place, meaning your processes are bulletproof. You are an operational efficiency machine, and you are, locked and loaded, no redundancies. Take every cost out of that process that you possibly can. You are as efficient as possible, and you're constantly and consistently reviewing those processes. And you have the right value to offer your customers. You're offering them the right products and services, and you're delivering on that brand promise of relevancy, authenticity, and differentiation. So you're offering them something of value that they value, and they value it because you did the research and the analysis, and you're delivering on that promise at the right price point because you've done your pricing research, and you know that you've got an appropriate pricing strategy in place. And if you didn't before, you now know it because you did the pricing analysis, and now you do. So your customers are happy, they're satisfied, they're staying, they're retaining, they're referring you to other people, so they're loyal. So the thinking here is you have the right people doing the right work. They're satisfied, they're loyal, they're going to stay. The right internal processes and operations, locked and loaded, bulletproof processes, the right value to your customers. Those three perspectives will drive your financial results. So it's a way of looking at business planning from an enterprise-wide point of view. Even if you are a solopreneur, plan this way. When I started my company 10 years ago, I did this for myself. And I was offering consulting services, but I didn't have employees, but I had people helping me. So, I was outsourcing some of the support that I needed. But if you do this is, and so this is critically important to plan with this enterprise view. Now, what you do is provide this balanced scorecard. I'm going to show you the scorecard in a minute. I'm going to walk you through what it looks like. That scorecard is on the desk of every employee in your company. Because if you did this right, your territory manager in Boise, Idaho is going to take a look at the strategic plan. And he's going to go right to the customer objective. And he's going to say, oh, okay, I'm responsible for selling this portfolio of products and services to my customer base. I've got these quotas. These are things I have to do. This is my responsibility. This is how I'm being held accountable. And I now know where I fit in the organization's grand scheme of things. I know exactly how I matter, how I'm valued. You have a product marketing manager or product marketing coordinator who's responsible for writing email copy, or they're in charge of content management, or they're in charge of your content on your website. Whoever it is, every employee needs to look at the balanced scorecard and say, my work supports customer objective number 2.1.4, 3.7.5. And why is that important? Because each one of those strategies has an associated KPI, performance is a metric that's associated with that initiative. So that key performance indicator, and at the end of the day, that employee knows what's going to happen. That Deb or my manager, their manager, is going to, at the end of the day, when I'm going through my performance evaluation at the end of the quarter or end of 6 months or at the end of every year, hopefully not annually, but more frequently than that. That's how I'm going to be reviewed. Yes, I was responsible for all these things, but here's the number. And I'm not sure, someone at the conference talked about this. I'm not sure who it was off the top of my head, but somebody said in one of the presentations that everybody has a number. And this is how everybody gets a number, is because that number is on the balanced scorecard. So you can look at that and go, okay, I know exactly what I'm going to be held accountable for. So if I'm working on something else, if somebody did a drive-by in my cubicle and said, hey, Deb, I need you to work on, can you do this project for me, or run this report, or do something? I can literally say to that person, I wish I could, but I can't. Because why? Because I'm going to be held accountable to this initiative, this work. This is what my boss is going to pull me in one day and say, either I'm above plan or I'm below plan. And it's not good to be below plan, but if I am, and I'm sure then we're going to have that hard conversation about performance improvement and what I need to do and all those things. This is another incredibly powerful way of generating cohesiveness and alignment across the organization, because these objectives and strategies are cascading down. So the company at the enterprise level will have the balanced scorecard, and it's going to be the corporate scorecard, and it's going to be promoted. It's going to be everywhere. You're going to have it on the walls. There's going to be an employee meeting. There's going to be big discussions about the corporate scorecard. So everybody knows what the overall arching plans are, the financial plans, our growth targets, and then every quarter, this is where we are. This is where above plan, below plan. If we're below plan, what's it get well? Because then that cascades down, and every department head will have their own version of their balanced scorecard. So they know specifically for their work, what their objectives are going to be very, very specific to them. And then those employees in those departments will have their scorecard, so they know exactly how their work supports their department, and then ultimately how that all supports the organization at the enterprise level. So this process drives, just from the bottom up, employee satisfaction, employee retention, employee accountability, and performance. This is performance management. The balanced scorecard is a performance management tool. It helps the internal operations of the business, again, going through this exercise of process mapping. And sometimes you have to do process mapping. You've got to get cross-functional representation, because there are many different people touching parts of the process in different functional areas of the business. You got to pull the right people in to go through the exercise and have them do it. You don't have to do it. I got to the point where I didn't want to do it anymore, because it's more fun for me to see them do it, because they're the ones doing the work on a daily basis. They know better than anybody. And this is really important. They know better. They know better than I do. They know better about their own work on their day-to-day work, and what's working and what is not working. And if you're not asking them to contribute to those conversations, you're missing an opportunity for improvement. And everything that we're talking about here is continuous improvement. So, engage them. And then, of course, you have to know who your customers are, again, not all value is created equal. Your customers require different things. They value different things. It's not a homogenous, one size fits all value proposition going to everybody. You have to know what's important and how to segment effectively. So this is the strategic plan, the balanced scorecard. It is a plan on a page. The page can be an 11 by 17, and typically it is. And you fold it out, you fold it in half, and it's an 8.5 by 11. But on the balanced scorecard, you have articulated your vision, your mission, your key objectives and your key strategies, your key performance indicators, and your resources, like who the people are that are working on this, and then what the work looks like. And you're going to do this for the financial perspective, the customer perspective, the operational perspective, and the employee perspective. So you're going to literally take all the data, take your research bridge, and you're going to go through the work of the research bridge, which starts with the Y-axis are all the different ideal customer avatars. We call them ICAs, which are your personas of your customer. Customer profile A, customer profile B, customer profile C, customer profile D. They're different. They value different things. And then down the Y-axis on your research bridge, you're going to articulate all the variables. So when you're going through the data, and back to the point I made very early on, when you're going through the data, it can take a long time to go through the data. But every time you come across a data point that goes, that tells me something I need to know about my products. Oh, that tells me something about our service quality. Oh, this tells me something about a gap in our product line. Oh, this tells me about, and you literally go through these data and you pull the variables out, those things that you're recognizing that matter, and you put all the variables down on your Y-axis, and then you make them specific to the specific target audience. And when you do that, and sometimes I've done this and it's 20 pages long, but then you go, when you're done, you look at one of the first columns, customer profile number 1. You know everything you need to know about them. Your business strategy for that customer segment is completely articulated by going and building your research bridge. You know what products they value. You know how to message about that value. You know what your pricing situation is, and if you have opportunities for improvement there. You know if you have a process or a deliverable or a fulfillment problem, because you'll know that. And all you've done here is gather every report, every accounting report. You've pulled whatever customer market research you've done that's recent, and that's your starting point. Many organizations can't afford to invest in a primary research study. Who's got, and some of these are, tens of thousands of dollars. You do a market sizing study. Working for someone like a Grainger or Citigroup or a Baxter, you can do that. But when you're a small to mid-sized business, you can't. You have to work with the information that you have available to you as the starting point. But here's the thing. If you go through that exercise and you do the product portfolio map and you uncover savings from that exercise, now all of a sudden you have the pot of money. You have savings that maybe now you can invest in a research study to get even more information. So you could literally, and then you have it by going through this process, you know what your strengths are. There's your SWOT analysis, where your strengths are. Capitalize on your strengths, promote your strengths, do more of those things. Where your weaknesses are. Okay, get well plans, do it right now. You've got exposure here. Fix that, close that gap, turn that weakness around. You have your opportunities. That's where the money is. Where's there? The opportunities could be an opportunity for you to take your existing products and services and just push out messaging through the right channel with the right to that audience about your existing product. That's that short-term win. That's where you can generate revenue in the short term. And then there are the threats, all that stuff that maybe you don't know about that's coming. What's happening out there from a competitive standpoint, from a technology. How is that going to impact your business? From an economy, we talked, about in our session today. I mean, Martin just presented about weak signals and paying attention, to what's happening out there and bringing that in, having a process to come in and review that and review it on a timely basis. Those are where your organizational threats may lie. And the sooner that you have a sense of that, you have to be proactive to look for that. But the sooner that you understand that, you may put a strategy together to mitigate that risk. So all of a sudden, by going through and building your bridge, you could literally hand that bridge to every department head. So marketing knows exactly who the target customers are, who they are, what their demographics are, all that. They know what products they value. They know what channel preferences they have. Yeah, these are people that respond to email campaigns, and they're email responders. Let's do more email to these guys, right? And you go through the list, and all of a sudden you've got your strategy for your department. Your operations people look at the bridge and they go, oh my gosh, we've got threats, we have exposures, we got process problems. What happened to continuous process improvements? We haven't been like walking that walk. We need to do better there, right? Your finance guys looking at all this because they're managing the overarching enterprise financials. They know they need to see where the exposures are, where they are today, but like what's on the horizon, where are potential threats, potential exposures. They want to know that. And imagine what happens when you've got the department heads all have access to the same information. Think about that for just a second. Now, all of a sudden, you would talk about the term cohesiveness and alignment. When your leadership has the same understanding of all the strengths, all the weaknesses, all the opportunities, and all the threats, imagine the power of that to shape strategy. And then the way that you implement that strategy is through the integration work that you've done with the balanced scorecard, because that balanced scorecard is the tool that makes it real. It makes it actionable. So, and it drives accountability in the organization. So if you implement these strategies, this is a difference maker. This is a difference maker for any size organization. It's a real difference maker for SMBs, for small to mid-sized businesses. It starts to instill a discipline of the importance of data and information, but and how to get it, what to look for, but how to make it work for you. That, don't get stuck in this, we talk a lot about the status quo and things are going along and, but you can do better. We can all do better. So it's important that we initiate a lot of these disciplines, a lot of these processes, and start today, again, because one of the things that we are really focusing on here, especially with the master classes, is the practical how-tos, how to do these things. Again, our conference, you came to our conferences, you heard these experts talk on these topics. 25 minutes. Thank you so much for doing that, for all of you that are listening today and who participated and were shared your knowledge with our attendees. But the how to do it, that's where the master classes come into place. The how you do it. Here are the tools, use these templates. All this information is available. And then you want to do the real walkthrough with access to all the information, all the templates, all the step-by-step instructions. Then those are available in our online training courses. And those are what we call the 4-hour fundamentals. This is a 2-hour session. So Arthur's session this morning about AI, 2-hour session, Ram's about scenario planning, storytelling, 2 hours, Martin for 2 hours, and now me on business intelligence, 2-hour sessions, a full day. But these courses are available in deeper dives, if you will. There's something for everybody here. If you're just interested in learning generally about a topic, continue to come to our conferences, listen to these experts. You want to learn the how to implement, then the master classes are for you. You want to learn the step-by-step, like step 1, do this, step 2, do that, step 3, do that. Those are our online training courses. And then there are also training courses that are more intermediate and more advanced for those who have maybe a greater competency in one area over another. So my point here is that the value of what we're offering, we have something for you wherever you are on your learning path and on your education path. We have a solution for you. And so I would highly encourage you to to continue to join us at the conferences. Please, join us for our master classes. We are working on our next series of master classes, and we'll be rolling those out very, very soon. We're continuing to build online training courses, certainly in the areas of business and business management, but also on health and wellness and soft skills and life skills. And in back to the content about health and wellness, there's a real focus here on helping provide knowledge, transferring knowledge providing learning opportunities, serving the entire person, the entire human, the human being. That you need to be educated and develop yourself professionally as a business owner or a business leader. That's critically important. But you need to also take care of yourself. And you have to learn about how to do that. And so that because you're only, if you don't take care of yourself, if you're not healthy and well, then your business will suffer. And it's not just about you, it's about your people, your employees, your teams, and your families. So we highly encourage you to stay in touch with us. And I just want to kind of wrap, up today, because we had some incredible teachers today in the master classes. And I wanted to just say a little bit about how this kind of all comes together. Arthur spoke about artificial intelligence and the tools that are available. And this is what's really in my personal takeaways from today. What is this? There are a lot of tools that are available to help you get information that you need to start your gathering of data to drive your business intelligence process. Use the AI tools. I use them as research, to get information. If I hear about something, an emerging trend, sure, I'll go out there and chat GPT and I'll type that in and get some information. One thing I really learned during our conferences, and certainly from Arthur today, was, you can't necessarily take it at face value. That's a caution. Okay, I would say this, take it under advisement. Whatever you're seeing come up when you're typing in your question, take it under advisement. And Arthur gave some really great tips about how to do that effectively when you're querying using the AI tools, how to make sure you're querying the most the best way possible, so you get like the best answer possible. But then know that there are many different tools, so just don't choose one. Maybe ask the same question of some of the other tools, because you may get completely different answers. And take it all with a grain of salt, because there are going to be anomalies in there, maybe inaccurate information. So that's really, really important. So that's a key takeaway from Arthur's remarks. Ron emphasized the importance of scenario planning and storytelling. And this is really, really important to understand how organizations can anticipate and adapt different futures by crafting compelling narratives, because you have to be able to tell a story. And that was a brilliant training session about how to actually do that. So again, Arthur's teaching you some of the tools and how to use them, the how-tos. That's what today was all about. Ron did the same thing. How do you implement? How do you craft compelling stories that convey the message that you need to convey and have the impact that you want? Critically important. Martin talked about weak signals, about paying attention to what's outside of the four walls of your business. Don't try to minimize the surprises. And he really generated incredible awareness about how to have these. You pay attention to the trends, but really make it a priority. It doesn't take a lot of time, but you don't want to be caught. You don't want to. You want to limit the amount of surprises that you're faced with. Remember about the SWOT, the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, but the threats. That's the stuff that Martin's talking about how to understand what those threats that are. And there are threats that are here and now, but the scary stuff is what's coming that we don't even really understand. So pay attention to that. I think that's really, really important. Just you have to remain vigilant and agile in response to subtle shifts in the environment. And you can't do that in a timely manner if you're not paying attention. So I would highly encourage that. And then today, kind of wrapping it up with the business intelligence, some of the how-to tools about how you can have a great impact. Do your customer profile analysis. Do it this afternoon. And if you need help, you need the template. Reach out to me. Reach out to any of us from today's master classes if you need any support. Happy to help you any way that we can. Do your customer analysis. Take a look at what's on your desk, what's in your computer, what reports are on your desk. What are you looking at to make your business decisions today? And start building your research bridge with that. Do it this afternoon. You're going to have gaps and holes, but it's a research mindset that you need to integrate and adopt. And as I think I showed, it's very, very powerful if you do it. So start today. Do your customer profile analysis. Do your gathering, collecting of whatever reports, whatever data elements you know right now about your business and your customers and your products and your services and your operations. So, and your customers. So make sure you do that. And then I guess, ultimately armed with all of this, this is how you have an impact. This is how you achieve your overarching goals for your business. You have to plan to get there. It doesn't happen without going through this process. And I think between Arthur and Ram and Martin and my remarks today, I think you have some real practical skills. And we went into this with just that. I mean, I started my discussion about business intelligence kind of in the middle of the business intelligence process. I didn't even really talk about the collection of data, data quality, data hygiene, data repositories. I went right to what you do with it when you have it. And we all did that today because why? That's the purpose of the master classes, is to give you practical advice, something that you can make actionable today. And so you don't have to, and there are tools available to help you do it. You don't have to do it alone. And so please don't hesitate to reach out. And if there are any questions, I think we are just about at the end of our time together.
Well, we're almost done here. We do have a couple of questions here. So, Deb, thank you so much for your insights today. A couple of questions. So, one is branding strategy for startups. So, what do you recommend startups do? There are limited resources. So, you recommend we create customer profiles for the top 10 potential customers, or do you have a specific recipe for
I
that?
would, I would, I would start, as where I would say start where, look at your revenue. Where's your revenue coming from? And do a profile analysis of those customers that are driving. Maybe it's a 80-20 rule, but start there. And because what you want to be able to do is be able to replicate the profile of those customers that are generating 80% of your revenue. You want to be able to find more of those customers that fit that profile. So that's a good first step. And then, of course, you've got to go through the exercise of making sure that what you're offering them, your value, is back to the branding dynamics of relevancy, authenticity, and competitive and differentiation. So you have to have an understanding of who these customers are, find lookalike customers who fit that profile, and then make sure that those products that they're buying are the ones that you're promoting heavily. And you could see some short-term incremental revenue come from that.
Wonderful. Different kind of question is once you create your own balance scorecard, how often do you revise it or update?
Great.
Is it done on a quarterly basis or?
No, that's a great question. It's interesting. A lot of organizations are kind of in the mode of annual planning, and they go through this process where they'll gather all the data and do the analysis and do the bridge and all those portfolio map and the new product development process on an annual basis. So what I would suggest is this: go through the entire process right now with what and with what you have. Build your balance scorecard, and then as your starting point, then go back every quarter and conduct a quarterly review. And why do you do that quarterly? Because you want your business plan to be what we call evergreen. You don't want it to just do it and then sit it and then nobody look at it or work with it. So do your annual planning and then plan by quarter. So you're going to have your annual plan numbers, and then you'll have maybe ideally your 3-year vision plan and 5-year plan, but then plan by quarter and then go back every quarter and do 2 things. Current state, where are you according to your quarterly plan? Are you up? Are you down? If you're down, what's your get well plan? And secondly, what new pieces of information, what's going on externally? What is the environmental scan telling you? What are you hearing any weak signals? What's different now than 3 months ago, and bring that in and revise your plan accordingly. So replan every quarter.
Okay. So will you make available the balance scorecard templates?
Yes, the balance scorecard template. So that is available. in the online training course. All the research bridge template, the balance scorecard template, all the instructions, the step by step are available in the online training course.
Okay, so where do we find the online training course?
Okay, you can find all the online training courses at SMB's course website, our course catalog, which is smbdigitalcourses.com.
smbdigitalcourses.com.
Correct.
All righty, so those were the questions we had for today, and we are running out of time. So again, thank you so very much, folks, for your being here with us today. And this is a marvelous session. Deb, thank you so much for your
Pleasure.
insights.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And thank you, folks. I'll see you in our series of master classes. See you next time.